Hello, it's Science, Mr. Robertson here, just checking I'm in camera. Yes, I am all good. I'm going to do some little videos before national test on things that I don't think I've done before in video form, so just a few little things that might help. I've never really talked about drugs in any detail, so it's one thing I want to really focus on. Firstly, drugs are not all bad. We talk all the time about different illegal drugs and what they can do for the body, and that's important to know. However, drugs are not all bad. Drugs are things that in some way affect the brain. They do something to the brain, and that's what a drug is. And some of those things can be good. For example, yesterday I had a really bad headache. I took some paracetamol, which is the drug you can find in Alvedone, and it helped me feel better. I was able to do some more work. That's a good drug to use. Be careful though not to take too much. It can provoke an liver. Well, that was terrible Swinglish. It can affect the liver. You can have drugs that are bad. Drugs that are too addictive. Drugs that can have lots of problems and negative impacts on your health. And you can have those maybe in the middle, that some use of them, if you control it, could be okay. For example, I wonder how many of your parents have a cup of coffee in the morning with the caffeine inside of it. Is that good? Is that bad? Not for me to decide. There are some drugs, of course, we do need to focus on. And I will focus a little bit on these three. I will focus on caffeine. I will focus on alcohol. And I will focus on nicotine. Nicotine is the drug that is found when we smoke tobacco. I want to say a little bit about what they do, why they can be a problem. It could be the kind of thing you would discuss on a national test. If we talk about caffeine, for example, caffeine is a drug that is a stimulant. That means that the use of caffeine makes my brain basically more excited. More different things happen in my brain at once. Because of that, people feel less tired. So caffeine thereby making the brain, ooh, I see a little bit of light. The caffeine exaggerates everything, makes everything seem brighter and bigger and louder. And you may not notice it on a actual day-to-day, I've had a cup of coffee. Ooh, the room is really bright. It's not like that. But certainly caffeine does stimulate the brain much more. Stops the feelings of tiredness, and people can feel more awake because of that. Alcohol is kind of, in one sense, the opposite. It's a depressant. It's the kind of drug which actually slows the brain down. Basically, alcohol gets in the way and stops the brain from working right. So, if you have a depressant, then it's harder to keep balance, it's harder to think about the things that you're saying, it's harder to have control, and people may make more mistakes and fall over. And too much of that, slowing down the brain, too much alcohol can have the problem that the brain actually starts to shut down and turn off. And that's when, of course, alcohol could be a very, very serious drug. That's why anybody using alcohol should be very careful to know how much they can control. Super important. Nicotine is the drug that we find in smoking. Now, nicotine is actually a really clever drug. It actually copies something called dopamine in the brain, which at loss of a better phrase, is the chemical our bodies make when happy. People that have nicotine can feel more relaxed and more, perhaps not confident, but more content and glad with their lives. The problem is that it's super, in fact, all of these can be, they can be super addictive. Addictive meaning that if you have a little bit, you would want to have more again and again and again. That can be a problem. So we need to make sure that anything is very careful in use of any drugs, because drugs can be addictive and they can then cause a really serious negative impact on your life. For example, with smoking, you have problems stretching not just, but of course, the lungs, because they're full then of all of this tar, making them sticky, making it really, really hard then for people to breathe properly. Like so. You can have a problem as well that there's lots of toxic chemicals in there, and lots of these coming down to the lungs can damage the cells, and they can possibly turn cancerous as well. You also have the stickiness, not just down in the lungs, stopping them from expanding, but even down here, the little hairs that control making sure no bad stuff gets into your system, they get stuck, they get full of sticky tar, they can't move. And smokers often have a terrible cough because they can't move all the sticky mucus that's stuck in their throat. And there's different negative impacts then that drugs can have for the rest of you. Alcohol, for example, has a big effect on the liver, because the liver has to try and destroy the alcohol that's in the system. The alcohol, in a sense, is a poison that your body has to get rid of. I think I'll stop there. There are, of course, more damaging drugs. Lots of the narcotics, the knark, that can be really, really, really dangerous. They are extra strong, extra addictive, and can cause many serious problems. But I'll leave it there. We will do much more about drugs later on, but there's a chance that something about drugs will come up on the national test, and you need to be able to understand some of the arguments about that. Thank you.